Welcome back again, and thanks to everyone who's been commenting on my videos. I'm going to go through a few of them now with you, and hopefully we all learn something together. So straight in with UK Techie 8013. Interesting, as my potential heat pump would be a very similar layout. The cupboard space with tank in looks similar to my cupboard. Would it not have been easier to locate tanks where the gas boiler was? What size is the cupboard? Yes, it would have been easier to locate the tanks in the garage where the gas boiler was, or potentially buffer tank in the loft. But at my request, everything was squeezed into that airing cupboard. The airing cupboard itself, I think from memory, is about 800mm wide by about 1200mm deep, there or thereabouts. So it's fairly deep as airing cupboards go, but everything really is a squeeze, not only to fit it in there, but I'm sure it's going to be a pain when it comes to servicing. So yeah, you might have a different idea, and you may be willing to give up your garage space, which your installers would definitely thank you for. We've had our 9 kilowatt Daikin heat pump for 4 weeks now from Octopus, cost £2,500 with bus grant. It included radiator upgrades, but I did this as preferred our designer rads, which look better but doubled size to achieve requirements. Included water tank as replaced combi gas boiler. Works fantastic, whole house warm, more comfortable but cheaper on energy costs. Need whole year really, but very happy so far. Yeah. Lawrence, 7 of 9. Just like you say, it's very comfortable heat, and we're not really pushing the systems and testing them at the moment, but I'm sure you'll be happy as long as you've done your sums correctly on those designer radiators, because I know for a lot of people, designer radiators ring alarm bells straight away because they are notorious for their very low output. Okay, we're on to home battery storage now. Adding a battery to my solar adding a battery to my solar added 4 years to the payback. Why did I therefore do it? For flexibility. Perhaps if solar rates ever go very low but energy import is high, I can charge cheaply if nothing else. Ultimately, the flexibility over the life of my setup makes it worthwhile, even if static sums today aren't compelling. That's a great point, that is. That said, I think I could reduce my payback period if I am smart with tariffs and usage, but I have my eyes wide open that ideal tariffs and rates may not exist for the life of my setup, and the lowest risk and initial outlay is a no battery option. You pay as your money, you make your choices. Yeah, tone the bone. Okay. I'm completely in agreement with your comments. Some people have watched that video and thought that I am totally anti-battery. That's not the case at all. There's some interesting content that I need to get going with about home batteries and my situation. But yeah, it's interesting, and even as things have changed in the last few weeks and the tariffs are changing next week from the 1st of April with price caps and stuff, the market is always changing, and the pros and cons of batteries, generally speaking, are well established. But like you say, I think the main point of that video that I was trying to make on home battery storage is it's not cut and dry. Like, you need to do your sums. For some people, battery storage it's just a no-brainer. They should go for it. If they've got the capital investment available, they're going to have a payback quickly. Some people in as little as 4 to 5 years. No problem at all. And we know that most batteries are guaranteed for 10 years. Right, anyway, I'm ranting now. Let me just move on. Next comment. Bamble119. I've had mine installed for a month now and still waiting for my energy export to be set up. But it's amazing how many people screw their faces up at heat pumps. You've had yours installed. Did you have solar panels installed at the same time as heat pump? Is that why you're waiting for your energy export to be set up? Chase your installer. Make sure that you've got the number so that you can register with your supplier. If you're with Octopus Energy, I found they were really, really quick. It was definitely less than a month from installation to my export being live. But yes, people screwing their faces up at heat pumps. I get that a lot. Although, I get it from people who don't know me. People who know me, sometimes they have a little bit of shock, but they know that I get pretty geeky with research and figures and technical details, and they know that I've got a technical, engineering side background, and so a lot of people, their ears kind of perk up. They hear something in the news, and then they know what I'm like, and know that I will not just be swept up in a whirlwind, and will do my research, and they listen quite intently. And a few friends and family are currently investigating their own personal heat pump installation journeys as well. Anyway, I've got a very skeptical brother-in-law that is a gas safe engineer. That doesn't surprise me, unfortunately. A lot of good gas engineers have been doing a great job for years and years, and they're reluctant to move on to the next thing, is what I'm understanding and what I'm hearing. Fact is, in Scotland, they are pushing hard on the heat pumps. Yeah, in Scotland, even more than down here in England. And they would love everyone to have one. His days as a gas engineer is going to be numbered at some point, unless hydrogen takes over from gas, but you will still need to pay for it. His big issue was Legionnaires. But to be frank, if you watch Geek, they will show and prove it's easy to live with lower heat flows. 50C for 2 hours will kill Legionnaires during its weekly purge. At the end of the day, gas is going, and you'll be left with a choice at some point. Yeah, we all know that right now hydrogen is looking not viable at all, at least not in the short term. So we're going to need electrification of heat to take over from gas in the short to medium term. Who knows? Maybe hydrogen could be a thing in 2-3 decades. I'm still skeptical that it'll ever be a viable solution. I understand that we've got the infrastructure there for, gas pipe work and everything else, but we've already got an electricity grid that is capable of dealing with heat pumps, and all the kind of skepticism around that has been debunked many times. When you say his days as a gas engineer are going to be numbered, I think the rollout of heat pumps is currently so slow, and the rate of growth in the heat pump market is so slow. He's going to have a job as a gas engineer for a very, very, very long time. As much as I'd love to see all those great gas engineers becoming heat pump engineers a bit sooner, I think realistically we're just not going to see a big swing as much as there's political will there, and as much as we're seeing now there are some financial benefits to running a heat pump. I still think the transition is going to be a lot slower than most people recognise. But anyway, you've had yours installed, and keep spreading the good word, Bamba119. On the Legionnaires thing, you can tell them we've just experienced our first full winter, because we're officially now in spring, 20th of March, I think it was. So we're 6 days into spring now. I've never once heated our hot water tank to 50 degrees, let alone over 50 degrees. So I'm not really interested in the scaremongering around Legionnaires, and I've done my own risk assessment, which everyone should do. If you're vulnerable and you have other concerns, then fine. It's for peace of mind. You might want to pay a few extra pennies every day. But for me and a young family, no underlying conditions, we're all fine with taking the risk. So, okay, Phil Smith, 6165. We currently have night storage heaters, which are notoriously expensive to run. Yes. As far as I can tell, there are no grants available to switch to a heat pump. Incorrect. If you're on direct electric heating, 100% efficient, then you do qualify for the bus grant. It's been suggested that we should install split systems at a cost of around 12 grand for my property. I don't know how big your property is, but 12 grand for a split, you're talking about air-to-air system, sounds expensive. I've seen people do homes for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 grand, but I don't think I've seen anyone spend over 10 grand on air-to-air systems. But maybe your place is huge. Domestic hot water would be extra. Yeah, you would have to look at immersion heating for that. Although if you're already on night storage heaters, I guess you already do heat your water through direct electric. If you're not going to go for an air to water heat pump, then there are hot heat pump hot water cylinders coming onto the market, but you may just be better with solar panels and like an eddy solar diverter. How many years would it take before I started to save money? You have to do your own sums, but because you're on direct electric, it's going to be quicker than most people. Properties with night storage heaters have been completely ignored by government and industry in this whole debate. No, I think you're missing something here, because if you look at the bus requirements, you'll see that your night storage heaters are covered. One of the big issues is that installing an air to water heat pump is obviously harder in your property because you have no existing pipework. So you literally have to rip apart the whole house to install a wet heating system. That's properties like yours where you've got night storage heaters. They make more sense for air to air as a solution. Oh, I didn't realize. Okay, 2 comments on this previous one. Bamba119, our hot water is heated to 6 degrees once a week by heat pump, one cheap overnight to kill Legionnaires. Is set for Friday to cover hot water, then 2 further later. Okay, yeah. If that works out for you, Lawrence, 7 of 9 in your with your hot water demand, then that is excellent. Ben is in Sweden. Ben, you comment a lot and your comments are brilliant. We should have you on the channel sometime. We should have a little chat together, maybe over Zoom or something. It would be good to know your background. It's probably easier for me to remember Ben is in Sweden because I like his little, I've forgotten the name now. The little character from Sega back in the day that I used to play on the little Sega Mega Drive. The little running guy. Oh, I've got a terrible memory. It'll come back to me later. I think there is mass misunderstanding from Progress people on how heat pumps heat hot water. Few seem to realise that R290 heat pumps can do well over 60 degrees, 75C in most cases, and even those that can't, e.g. R32 or R410A ones, there's an immersion, and the kicker is that the immersion only takes over from the 55 to 60 degrees or whatever it's set to. Immersion just seems to scare the bejesus out of many because they think it's a primary thing or running all the time, which it isn't. Even my dad's gas boiler is on a schedule for hot water, so it doesn't remain 60C all the time. Yep, correct. Ben is in Sweden. You seem very knowledgeable. I don't know if you work in this area, but thanks for commenting and thanks for replying. I really like to see we've got 3 regular watchers of the channel here. We're building almost like a little bit of a community, helping each other and discussing these things. Here we go. Bus grant should cover electric store heaters to an air-to-water heat pump, but that would mean installing a complete water system, which would cost far more than a split system. For a 12k install, assuming a 15-year, you would save more than £800 per year. Don't know how many kilowatt hours you spend on heating each year, nor whether you have economy 7 or solar. Yeah, so you've made some assumptions here. Thank you very much, Ben is in Sweden. You've literally just said everything that I've said, but you've wrapped it up very nicely. Brilliant. So Scopper 3 with payback, yeah. Yeah, cooling as well is another benefit of the split. So Jeff would know more, but I don't think even Octopus Tracker has dipped into the single digits for electric for quite some time. Yeah, that's correct. I think so. Just a few days ago, we were down to 11p per kilowatt hour, but it has been up in the late teens, 17, 18, 19p per kilowatt hour for the last little while. Thanks for your comprehensive response. We currently use about 8,000 kilowatt hours a year for heating at 18p per kilowatt hour on economy 7. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, I think one of the big things here is go back and get some more quotes. If you've had 12 grand for your air-to-air heating system and you're only using 8,000 kilowatt hours per year for direct electric heating, that's a very low amount of heat to have a 12k system. Oh, here we go. I should read all of the comments before I chime in. Ben is in Sweden, has covered this whole thing. He's taking over the channel. All right, get him on now. Get him booked. 12k for a system seems a bit much, to be honest, to air-to-air system for around 11,000 kilowatt hours of heat, which is a reasonable sized family home requiring that much amount of heat. I believe there's around an 8K. Yeah, that's like I was saying, like you don't really see a full system, you know, costing more than 10 grand. There's a lot of people who have installed them in their homes for 5 grand or less. Right, anything else we need to cover here? Yeah, so you can reduce, you don't necessarily need to have a unit in every single room. Because of the way they work, they're forcing more convection currents, and so they're able to more adequately spread heat from room to room by having those inbuilt fans. Hayden Lawrence 8167. So you're a skeptic. If you find storage heaters expensive around 18p per kilowatt hour for 6 hours a night, run a heat pump 24/7 at 29p for 18 hours, do you seriously think a heat pump will last 15 years? What skill builder heat can never use the heat pump and they replaced it in the cylinder after 7 years? Well, Hayden Lawrence, it sounds like you're set in your ways. So probably anything I say here is probably not going to change your mind. But heat pumps don't run flat out for 24 hours a day. Our heat pump is turned on for 24 hours a day, but because of the weather compensation and the way it modulates, recently with the mild weather, it will come on and it will run for 20 to 30 minutes at about 500 watts, pretty consistent. There's a little bit of a spike when the compressor initially kicks in, then it settles down and it just runs at about 500 to 600 watts. And then it's off for an hour, hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours, and then it'll kick back on for 20 to 30 minutes. So that's the reality of living with a heat pump. You clearly don't have that experience. This is just typical scaremongering that we've heard so many times, literally from the Times. We've heard it many times from the Times. The Skill Builder Geek collaboration, that just because there was one bad example, that doesn't cover all of the heat pumps. And on the point of heat pumps lasting 15 years, heat pumps are a very well-proven technology. They've been around for over 50 years and they are tried and tested, especially in commercial environments. Probably the commercial building that you go to work in is heated by a heat pump, and they are proven that they last well over 15 years when they're well maintained and they're run properly. Okay, anyway, looks like Ben is in Sweden, has gone to battle here. So, oh, brilliant. So you've had an air-to-air heat pump from 2007, so you had it for 15 years. Brilliant. You maintain. Yes. Yeah, that's exactly it. That's what I was trying to illustrate with my personal example. It's not when people get very scared when it's like you just leave a heat pump on 24 hours a day. And they also, because of the way that heat pumps are badged, my heat pump, for example, is a 7 kilowatt heat pump. And people are thinking, oh, wow. So you're drawing 7 kilowatts of energy 24 hours a day. That's, 7 times 24, and they're thinking that I'm bankrupting myself. And even actually many electricians, and I spoke to some electricians who were in the renewable industry but more on the solar side, and they didn't appreciate and understand that the maximum draw that I see on my heat pump is typically still under 2 kilowatts, even when it's getting right to the peak of its hot water cycle and it's really trying to ramp up to hot temperature. It will spike up to something like that, but most of the time it's running at 500-600 watts, and even then it's still not running consistently all the time because it does cycle. It still turns off, turns on, turns off, turns off, and it just trickles a little bit of heat in. Okay, Phil Smith 6165, you were the original commenter here, weren't you, on this little debate? I need to move on from this. This is going to be a very long video. Someone else mentioned 50 years, not my. They did. I would still be a little better off. Yep. This is that's a good point. Everyone has a heat pump in their home. It's called their fridge or their freezer. Yep. A lot of people with vested interests spreading BS about heat pumps, just like the new flu and the jabs. Oh, I see. You're a great conspiracy theorist. You've fallen down the COVID rabbit hole, which I definitely shouldn't go into at all. I don't know if Ben is in Sweden, has vested interest in spreading stuff about heat pumps, but I certainly have no vested interest, and the vast majority of the people commenting on here are homeowners who have had installations, and they are sharing their real world experience. So you can read whichever papers you like and believe what you like, but we're just going to share some facts. And if you look at some of the other videos on my channel, you'll be able to see how much a heat pump is saving me on a monthly basis. If you want to pay extra by running a gas boiler, then it is a free country to do so. The Ronski Man. Are you Ron, and do you like to ski? What benefits do you get with a Heat Geek install? There are 2 installers in our area. What will be the difference going direct to them? So Heat Geek Assurance, I'm not fully qualified to tell you exactly what that is because I haven't had a Heat Geek Assured installation. But for example, most Heat Geeks, they are self-employed installers, one-man bands, 1 or 2, 3 people or whatever. And of course, that kind of outfit can be more susceptible to going under and folding, especially in a time where there's lots of grants being handed out. Unfortunately, every time there's some sort of government support scheme and grants, we see industry have these kind of crisis moments. A lot of people come in and mop up a lot of the grant money, and then they fold and they disappear, either through bad intent, or they just can't keep on top of all the demand, and the business running doesn't seem to go so well. So with Heat Geek Assurance, if the Heat Geek that installed your installation does happen to fold, and you don't have any other kind of insurance policy behind that, then from what I understand, Heat Geek themselves underwrite that they will then come and deal with repairs, maintenance, all those kind of things. On top of that, they do guarantee a minimum SCOP, which I think they put out there as 3.4, but I think in the real world, they're seeing that most of their installations were above 3.8. Don't quote me on these figures. You need to do more of your own research. There is, of course, a premium by going through this avenue, but you do get the full backup of Heat Geek Direct rather than just someone who's been on the training course. That being said, personally, I would probably save the money and go directly to one of your Heat Geek approved installers locally if you can get your foot in the door, because these people are in high demand. The bad octopus. Given the difference in installation costs, it would take a long time to get that back with the marginal annual running cost benefit of Heat Geek. I don't doubt that installation and quality is really great, but I do doubt it would pay most homeowners back in under 10 to 15 years. The bad octopus, I agree, is part of the reason why I've got an installation from British Gas, because I did my calculations carefully, and forget all the difficulty of trying to enlist the services of a Heat Geek engineer, which in a lot of ways seems to be the ideal, seems to be a more sure way of finding someone who is well qualified and potentially experienced. That one could be opening a can of worms and up for debate. But companies like Octopus and British Gas, they have scale, they have resources that these smaller independent firms unfortunately don't have. And I hear that some of these smaller Heat Geeks and places are starting to try and price match Octopus and British Gas. I don't think that's a sustainable business model. I think they should focus on really the people who will pay the premium to have the best of the best systems. In my case, my British Gas system is running efficiently. It's working out well. Could the system be optimized for more efficiency and save me a little bit more in running costs? Yes. Would it have cost me a lot more upfront in capital investment? Yes. Would I ever have made my money back? No, actually, I never would. As long as the system remains reliable, that's the key thing. So thank you for the comment, the bad octopus. David Tyler, 7994. So just to see what Octopus said, I asked for a quote. Unfortunately, based on the details you've given us, it doesn't look like we can install a heat pump for you at the moment. They are indeed going for the low-hanging fruit. They weren't going to like my 10mm plumbing and 1980s radiators anyway, so an estimate wouldn't necessarily be held to once the surveyor had come to take a look. I'm still glad I went for air-to-air, low capital cost, low installation cost, low lead time, low installation time, low running costs, and altogether a good option for anyone whose ancient gas boiler dies and who needs a replacement now, not at some very hazy future date. David Tyler, you've got some good points, some very good points, but it seems like you've got a little bit of a bias towards air-to-air, and I don't like any of the tribalism that creeps in. They're both great technologies, and they're both good solutions for us moving forward in heating homes, and we need both of them, and we need to realise that we're both on the same team, air-to-air and air-to-water. To pick up on some of the points, of course, they're going for the low-hanging fruit. Octopus now don't care about 10mm microbore pipework. They are installing on that. That's no issue. The 1980s radiators aren't really going to be an issue. For most of them, they will be able to triple the output with maybe some minor pipework adjustment. But if your property's anything like mine, the pipes stayed exactly where they were, and the radiators got a little bit deeper and a little bit taller. In terms of them holding to the estimate, that's one of the good things about Octopus. They guarantee the estimate that they quote from the outset will be what you pay. The surveyor will come and Octopus may win or lose a little bit, but they will guarantee that original price. And there are some people on the Facebook group, on the heat pump Facebook group, and they've paid like £500 or something ridiculous, and the surveyors come and gone, whoa, this is a big installation, and Octopus have honoured it, which is insane. So some people could get very lucky. In terms of air-to-air, there's pros and cons to both, of course. The big negative with air-to-air is it doesn't heat your hot water. But if you're happy with like a solar diverter like Eddy or something like that, then hey, no problem. Go for air-to-air. You've got the bonus of cooling in the summer. So that's when all the air-to-air people are definitely laughing at us air-to-water people. But like I say, we're all in the same boat of moving away from gas. And like you say, the lead time on air to water can be very frustrating. So yeah, brilliant. Thank you for sharing. Hayden Lawrence 8167. You are the one from up there. Another biased video from someone pushing an agenda. Okay, I don't know what agenda you think I have. This isn't my job. I don't work in the renewable industry. I actually work in the motor trade, and I work in the kind of classic car part of the motor trade that very much is, unfortunately, pushing against this agenda. So I work in an industry that is very, very skeptical about this green agenda and pushing forward with renewables. I'm, of course, someone inside that industry that I believe it's better to be inside to make a change than try and force change from the outside. So I have nothing to gain, although I guess to be perfectly transparent, since making some of these videos, I have been offered 2 jobs in the renewable sector, both of which I've declined. I'm content doing what I'm doing at the moment with my life. Let's move on from that anyway. Clearly, whatever I say here is not going to change your mind, but I have no vested interest. I don't work in that sector. There's no subsidy or sponsorship from Geek or Heatable or Octopus or whatever. I just put this together in a little bit of spare time to help other people on the internet. The first quote of 3,800 cannot be for just a boiler swap and flush. Yes, it can. I don't know when the last time was that you got a boiler quote, but in the last 10 years, boilers, for a decent boiler, the price has escalated quite considerably. And those those just were the quotes of Heatable. I expect that Heatable are probably more expensive than if you get a quote from your local Joe Bloggs plumber down the road. But yeah, anyway, you can believe what you want to believe, but you're also welcome to take your own address details and go on those 3 websites and get a quote for your own property and verify what I'm saying. The 7.5 grant is just stealing from poorer people to subsidise the wealthy in their virtual signalling. Okay, well, I will pick a bone with this a little bit, and hopefully this rant won't go on for too long. Right, I'm clocking the time. You can look at the figures. I can't remember where they're published, but somewhere on the government website there is a breakdown of how many heat pumps were installed in the last year and how many of them were installed under an Eco4 grant system. My personal installation was done through British Gas, and British Gas basically subsidise the installation. They offer interest-free credit, and they were basically making a loss on my installation because I was one of the early adopters. And then we got the 7.5k grant. I don't believe it's stealing from poor people to subsidise the wealthy in their virtual signalling, because the vast majority of homes that have heat pumps installed are council houses, housing association, Eco4 grants. To get a grant under Eco4, you have to have some form of benefits. I don't understand exactly what benefits qualify. Unfortunately, we didn't qualify. We got 3 young children, but we're both working, and we're not wealthy, and we're not trying to virtual signal. We're not poor as well. We're just those awkward people stuck in the middle where we feel like we're paying lots of taxes and just struggling to get by. Raising a young family with 3 young kids. But from what I understand, and also from the kind of, anecdotally, if you want to dive into the Facebook group and the heat pump group, you will see dozens and dozens and dozens and hundreds and thousands of posts from people who are having Eco4 installations. There's people from all walks of life there, disability, unable to work, retired people. I just really don't believe that this 7.5, and it's hard for me to say because also principally I don't really agree in handouts. I don't agree in government subsidies, but unfortunately the market needs a push, and so if that's what we need to make it happen, then that's what we need. But I'm sure other people will have their take on whether this bus grant is stealing from poor people to subsidise the wealthy, because the stats say the exact opposite. So maybe I should look up the numbers, and maybe when I reply to you in text, maybe I'll put the exact numbers of how many of these bus grants have been used for people on benefits rather than the very wealthy. And also anecdotally speaking, a lot of the more affluent people that I know, they are the ones who are the first to turn their nose up at the thought of heat pumps. They are the first who love burning their fossil fuels. So anyway, Mr. Dave B 1979, did the Octopus install include a hot water cylinder? Yes, it did, and a couple of people have already covered that. Did I miss some other things here? Oh, rubbish. I'm missing some more things. Too many comments here, but this video is going to go way too long. Anyway, had the same from Octopus. My heat pump calcs are suggesting around 7 kilowatt for a 4-bed, 200 meter square bungalow. That's fairly low. That must be quite a modern building, well insulated. 200 meters squared, 7 kilowatt. That's pretty decent. Some of the automated tools suggest over 12 kilowatt. I would also need bigger ads pretty much throughout to get a low flow temp. Instead, I spent $600 on an R290 mini split of 3.5 kilowatt and will DIY it this summer for cooling and autumn spring heating. Okay, fair play to you. A lot of the automated tools will just use your EPC, and we all know EPCs are worthless and should be put in the bin. So they will always probably err on the side of caution, and they will go high, and then they'll come in, they'll do a heat loss assessment, and that figure will be brought right down. That's both from my personal experience, and that's also from what I've heard from commenters here on my YouTube channel and also in the Facebook group. 600 quid on an R290 mini split. I don't know how you DIY that, because I know you need to do some like vacuum purging of the lines. So, and also R290 is flammable and dangerous, but hopefully you're competent and you know what you're doing. Umski. Okay, what else? Yeah, the cylinders included. Right, I'm going to click this. 2 replies before we get started. Mojo, we had a great quote from Octopus, but after the heat loss survey, they said no, and that we needed a bigger heat pump than they supply, over 16 kilowatts. You must live in a very old house or a mansion, or both. Apparently, they like easy, low-hanging fruit type installs. Who knows? Anyway, we used a different and proven company from down south, and they price matched Octopus, and now we currently have an 11 kilowatt heat pump plus pre-plumbed 250 litre cylinder. That's all working really well. We changed 12 rads ourselves. Total cost 5k all in. Bargain. Very good, very good. Our 17-year-old boiler was beyond economical repair, so it worked out great. We have a 10 kilowatt PV solar edge system and 24 kilowatt hour battery storage, and these technologies are made for each other, as after the initial total outlay, 24 grand, including heat pump, the costs are absurdly low. £5 heating bill for the whole house for an entire week with outside temp of 4 degrees C. Perfect. Absolutely brilliant. The Ronskimans back on. Which company did you use down south? We're southeast, about as far as you can go. CB Heating, Clacton-on-Sea. Well, perfect for you then. Had to wait a few extra months for the install, but it was worth it, as they know what they are doing and worth the wait. Be sure to get a proper quote from Octopus first, otherwise price won't be competitive. Hope that helps. CB Heating is discussed quite a lot on the Facebook group. A lot of people very happy with the work that they've had from CB Heating, and the founder, owner, or former owner, or whatever he is an active poster on the Facebook group, and he's always trying to help people out, even a lot of people who haven't had his installations. And I think that they may have been acquired by OVO, but there's still a guarantee. Maybe it's not OVO. Definitely one of the big energy providers, I think, bought CB Heating. Maybe was it Scottish Power? I don't know. Anyway, I've heard a lot of good things. So glad that that's all worked out for you. You've avoided using Octopus, but you still got to the end goal. Right. This one is now on my north-facing solar system. Great video. You may have saved my sanity as I debate what to do in my Dorset renovation. My property is also northwest-southeast, but with some tree shading on the southeast side. Octopus declined to quote based on my trees, and those on the opposite side of the road, stating the Tigo Optimizer wouldn't be sufficient, which made me skeptical about the whole concept. Despite currently seeking permission for extensive tree work unrelated to PV installation, I should add, I too want to go to air source heat pump. If I don't do it now, I never will. Well, I've just requested a survey from Dorset Solar Solutions. Thanks to your experience and recommendation. That is brilliant to hear. Make sure you let Martin and Amy know that you've come via my videos. They're brilliant, a brilliant company running a really great little family business, and they are committed to giving you the best solution for your property and working with what you've got. Octopus is definitely more of a big organization that they've got some good vertical integration in what they're trying to do, but they ultimately are restricted by the size and the scale of their operation. That being said, what I don't understand is why Octopus are one of the very most expensive when it comes to solar installations, but they are typically the cheapest when it comes to heat pump installations. Why has that happened? There's a real disconnect there between those two sides of their renewable installation businesses. But anyway, let us know how it goes with Martin and Amy at Dorset Solar Solutions. Highly recommended. And my figures for March will be coming soon, but the system is performing better than we could have expected or anticipated. North-facing panels are definitely a game changer if you've got enough surface area to make it worthwhile. Right, anyway, moving on. Dana BC322. Wow, Heat Geek 9,059 after the bus grant versus 2,780 if I were to go with Octopus. Yeah, there might be a big difference in price there. A lot of people are finding that they're getting the estimate online from Octopus, paying, I think there's like a £500 refundable deposit to get the survey or whatever it is, and get heat loss calculations with Octopus. A lot of people are going down that avenue, and then once they actually get past the survey and they get the proposal from Octopus, then they're looking at, oh well, maybe I want slightly better equipment, or I want a lower design temperature, or whatever it may be. And then some people are sacrificing a bit of capital to go for a system that might be a little bit more tailored to their situation. But I'm glad that anyway the video that I did is opening people's eyes to, from the comfort of your own house, you can get some rough ballpark figures to get the ball rolling. Lewis Standing, this made me look up my property on Heat Geek. Another one, brilliant. Only 11,000, including assured $2,500 for performance. I wonder if I should just get the local Heat Geek Elite guy to quote instead. Edit might give era, I can't remember what they're called. That's the Swedish one that is rolling out now. I didn't include them on the quote. There's very little feedback that I've heard in the Facebook group or on my YouTube videos, but if there's anyone watching these videos that's had an installation, I'd be interested to know how that's gone for you. Seem to be sending all the right signals that they're up for a challenge, and they're up for getting a bit of market share and getting stuck in and trying to be competitive. And it seems like at the moment they are exclusively using Vaillant Arotherm Pluses, and in the future they're looking to develop their own heat pump in the same way that Octopus is with the Octopus Cozy heat pump. I know that Era have already got a production facility, and I can't remember which manufacturer they've partnered with, or they've acquired a smaller company to do that. But I'll be interested anyway, Lewis. Let us know what you're ultimately going to do and what you decided. Pete, I'm very happy with our heat pump system from Octopus, and once you get flow temps down and have such a comfortable temperature in the home, it's a lovely experience and no need to worry about what it's doing. And yes, even when it's -10, we had no issues and very warm and comfortable. And in return, you have saved loads of carbon being released into the atmosphere, where it could stay in the atmosphere for hundreds of years. I agree with you, Pete. Hayden Lawrence is here to troll us all. But yes, all of those things you say, exactly that. When you get a heat pump installed, you might need to just tweak your weather compensation curve down just a little bit. Just keep bringing it down until it's trickling the right amount of heat in it and it's working the most efficiently. And then you'll be very comfortable, have nice even temperature. You'll be saving money. Hopefully you should be saving money. And the carbon saving is massive. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. You'll be saving at least 60 to 70% of the carbon footprint of your home. Minimum. If you want to watch a good video about that, go and watch Tom. Forgotten his name now. I'll send you the link to his video. He recently showed how if you're wanting to save carbon, then changing to a heat pump is going to do a better job than insulating. So it was a great video anyway. Derek Paisley, installation quotes to vary a lot. I wanted a Vaillant Arotherm Plus, so I was limited to who could quote. Having a new Mixergy cylinder and all my rads had been upgraded, I was surprised at the 5.5k cost. I have bought a second-hand heat pump and looking to install it myself. Budget is 3k, will keep you updated. So you bought a second-hand Vaillant Arotherm Plus. Where on earth did you find one of those? How much did it cost you? What size is it? In terms of the actual connecting it to your existing heating circuit, I've done a video previously of how straightforward the system is. It's just getting the design right, getting the flow rates right, making sure the pipework is sized right. If you can get your head around all of that, The mechanical connections look really easy. The electrical connections look even easier on the Vaillant Arotherm Plus, because you've literally just got you've got data connections on a bus, which don't have to be wired in any order, and then you've just got a normal, like, spurred connection. So anyway, heat pump cylinder and heat pump, especially a Vaillant new, costs $3,500 to $5,000 just on its own at this point in time. Heat pumps are considerably more expensive to purchase than a gas boiler. Yeah, Sean S1000. This is a good point I haven't really covered yet, but it's something to maybe have a little bit of skepticism around. Obviously, I've got a new heat pump that is just a few months old. When it gets time in 15, 20, who knows, hopefully 25 years, we have to kind of hedge our bets and say the heat pump is going to be they're going to be a lot cheaper then. And it would be the kind of thing that once you got the system in place, hey, it's going to be easy to take it in and out and swap it, just as easy as swapping a gas boiler. But hopefully in that, in the future, the capital costs are going to come right down on the equipment as, supply and demand and mass production increases on these things. Penko Angelov. I wish we got any amount of subsidies in our country, and at the same time I'm concerned it will incentivise manufacturers and installers to artificially raise their prices. We have no subsidies for anything. We have to pay full price, and as most things are imported and sold in foreign currency, we have to pay double. For example, we both make $1,000 a month, but my currency has half the value of yours. We both want to buy 1,000 item. It's twice as expensive for me. I'm planning to install a heat pump in my house, but I'm just surprised at the price difference we have to pay for everything. I guess this is how you keep a country poor. I'm sorry to hear that. Let me know where you're writing to us from. It's interesting to see how heat pumps are so different across the world. Every country seems to be tackling it in different ways, and some are decades ahead, like in Scandinavia. No issues at all. Yeah, subsidies is a kind of difficult one, and that's one of the reasons that I worry about grants and subsidies as well, is sometimes you want market forces to try and push prices lower for consumers and have a bit of healthy competition, but at the same time we don't always want a race to the bottom, so you need to strike that balance, and at the same time artificially raising their prices. A lot of people worried about that, especially when the grant came in for $5,000 and then it came in for $7,500, and actually we haven't seen that in the UK yet. We haven't seen that at all. If anything, we're seeing things go in the opposite way. The grant has just kind of kick-started the market to get it going, and a lot of installers and suppliers are competing on price to try and cut their profits to the bone, which isn't necessarily sustainable. And sometimes I do feel a little bit of pain for those smaller companies who are trying to make this work. It's not, although this is financially viable for us homeowners, not necessarily easy for the small firms that are trying to install them. Excellent video, unless you're Heatable. The installation charges from Heatable are just outrageous, and their quotes just reinforce my view that the government needs to regulate cap installation costs associated with grant-assisted heat pump installations. Their first quote breaks down to somewhere between 80 and 100 hours labour at 55 to 70 per hour, which is absolutely ludicrous. So that is effectively 2 men for 5 full 8 hours a day. Yeah, Andy, if you look into the business model of Heatable, they're more like they're halfway between a lead generation site and a confused.com price comparison website. And it's great what they've brought to the market, a degree of transparency, knowing up front what is out there and giving you some choice. But obviously they don't directly do any of the work. They just pass the lead on to local installers that they partner with. So everyone has to try and take a slice of the pie, I guess. The video wasn't intended to knock Heatable. They are expensive. from what I understand. Heatable also, I did a little video about their solar side of things on their website, which is great technology, and again bringing a level of transparency to that market, which is always helpful. So I know that Heatable are tiptoeing their way into heat pump installations as well, and moving away from gas boilers. It will only be a good thing. So good to have a little bit more competition anyway. Tom Plum, you are correct. Worcester Bosch will modulate with Worcester Bosch controls only. This is why Heatable are not a good option. Nice video. Yeah, thanks for confirming that. I was pretty sure, but it'd been quite a while. I was doing research on this before I committed to a heat pump. I was doing research on which boilers work with which controls, and oh my goodness, it's a nightmare. And if you get the wrong controls for the wrong boiler, then you're just left with on and off controls. And there are some exceptions to that, and some of the Nest controllers can work on Opentherm with a wider variety of boilers, and I know Drayton Weiser does similar thing on Opentherm, but there's still not a standardized protocol for either gas boilers or heat pumps. And maybe in the future there will be, but right now the smartest thing is, if you're getting a Worcester Bosch boiler, stick with their controls. If you're getting a Vaillant boiler, stick with their controls. It's the same advice for a heat pump, by the way. But thanks for confirming that, Tom. Cliffs 5027. Good overview. I think Octopus base their installs on a 50-degree flow temperature. Correct, which while requiring fewer radiator upgrades isn't as efficient as a system running at 45 degrees or lower. That's one of the reasons I went for British Gas. I believe the Heat Geek installs aim for the lower temperature range, hence the higher price but lower running costs. My advice to anyone considering a heat pump is to do your homework thoroughly, as installers can't be relied upon to get everything right. I partially agree with some of that, and of course it depends who you enlist to do your installation. You may need to check some of the proposal very carefully, but 45 degrees or lower could yield you some nice gains. From a recent skill builder, Heat Geek retro heat pump fix throw video. Whoa, that's a mouthful. Rob Thomas 7232. A throwaway comment was that the cop or scop would be lower on an Octopus install versus Heat Geek, with the latter guarantee around 4, I think. Yes, that is widely accepted. You can actually look on heatpumpmonitor.org. There are some Octopus Energy heat pumps on there. You can see that they're performing okay. Octopus is not claiming to get the highest COPs. It's not claiming to be the highest efficiency. But I think Octopus are doing a reasonable job of a process which customers feel comfortable with. And they're striking a reasonable balance on the efficiency and the running costs are pretty good considering the capital outlay at the start for Octopus. Lawrence 7 of 9. Our Octopus heat pump runs currently around 30 to 38 degrees, seen it at 29, but apparently it can go as low as 25. That's heating house throughout last 4 weeks. We'll also heat hot water tank to 60 degrees once a week. Yeah, that's absolutely brilliant. For us personally, it's been a while since I've seen the flow temperature over 30 degrees because it's just been consistently mild. I regularly see our flow temperature between 25 to 30 degrees running our house. Heat Geek, thank you for taking the time to watch the video and commenting. Good. And glad you enjoyed it, even though I like the fact that you were clearly not the cheapest, but like I was saying, it's difficult to directly compare Heat Geek to Octopus because they clearly have different target markets. Heat Geek is getting out there and they are trying to get the top end part of the market. They're trying to be the most efficient, the best systems, running them well, getting all the flow rates, getting everything calculated, good design, good installation, and good handover and good customer care. The Octopus aren't really tackling that side of things. So that's why I kind of felt comfortable just kind of lumping it in as a comparison video and doing it independently. But I'm glad that Heat Geek, you're enjoying it. But I guess it's, yeah, you can say great video because it's free advertising for you. Heat Geek, how about you do a co-op video to let us know if British Gas did a decent job on upside down forks installation? Oh, 3 other people want to see that. I don't know what benefit that would have to anyone, really. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something. The system is running efficiently. There is a little snagging list that I'm working with British Gas on to try and just get everything buttoned up nicely. Now we've had a winter of nothing has affected the running of it. The running has been flawless. It's worked really, really well. There's just a few little things that I'd like buttoned up before, they kind of, move on and forget about the installation. So, and a few things that weren't immediately apparent to me, and some things that were brought to light through some of the comments. But anyway, I'll probably put together a video about that process. But the reason why I don't think there's a huge amount of benefit in there is that slagging off other people's work, other tradesmen, it rarely does much to instill confidence in a market, especially an emerging, developing market like heat pumps. I think it would be much more beneficial. Speaking as an outsider, not someone who works in renewables, but someone who is very aware of running businesses and how different rumours and things can affect a market as a whole. So Heat Geek could come in and pick apart British Gas. People may take things out of context and think it's worse than it is, and then that may sow the seeds of doubt in heat pumps as a whole, and we might get people like the critic earlier going, see, I told you so, heat pumps don't work. Roger Bisbee was right in all his criticism. At the same time, Heat Geek coming in and looking over the British Gas installation and going, oh, well, this is all brilliant. Heat Geek are going to do themselves out of a load of business. So I'm not really sure why I'm not sure who would benefit apart from those who are curious. Rob Thomas, I guess you're aiming this at Heat Geek. You want to know why Octopus is so much cheaper. Scale, vertical integration, direct employees, all of the above. Here you go. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's basically it. Octopus are using... you've put everything in here. You know why they're so much cheaper. You've put it all in there. Part of it is the Heat Geek Assurance premium that you have to pay. Part of it is higher cost components. And yeah, the economies of scale. You've covered it all, Rob Thomas. Right, we're coming to the end. We've got to land this quickly. Great video as usual. Is everyone aware that from May 2024 there is no need to have cavity wall insulation or to increase existing loft insulation to get the 7.5k bus grant? Yeah, I did see that. The government's trying to incentivise it more and more and more. I haven't covered this in a video though, so maybe it's something for me to tackle, because I know there's a lot of people complaining about the requirements for the bus grant. I think they're all pretty reasonable personally, because installation is sensible, like Lewis says here. But yeah, as Tom Bray, that's his name, as Tom Bray said in his recent video about insulation, like if we're just focusing on carbon, then just throwing heat pumps in is better than insulation. And maybe that's, I don't know the exact reasoning why the government have withdrawn the outstanding or the insulation recommendations having to be carried out, but oh, okay, interesting. Yeah, so I want to watch this a bit more closely. If anyone reads anything new or comes across anything new, drop us a comment. Yeah, so it was announced 2 weeks ago, but you haven't seen it reflected. When the grant went from 5 grand to 7.5 grand, it was a good month, maybe 6 weeks, until any of the websites were updated to reflect that. Slow moving, and I'm sure it would be the same for Heatable, Heat Geek, and Octopus. So, yeah, but thanks for raising that and bringing that to people's attention if anyone had missed that. I agree with you. EPCs are just, I've ranted about them enough. Anyway, I get why they're there. I know they serve a purpose, but terribly frustrating. I've just had the same system as yours put in by British Gas as well, including new radiators and pipework, 50-degree flow temp. Only been a few days, but so far my SCOP. Your SCOP is not 5.8, so your COP is 5.8. Your SCOP is over a whole calendar year because it's a seasonal coefficient of performance. That will be accounting for every season: winter, spring, autumn, summer. Then you'll have a SCOP of 5.8. So your COP since installation is 5.8. But you're going with the readings on the sensor comfort. Yeah, I'm still adjusting it and expecting it to settle down, but seems all good so far. Working well with my solar and battery too. Delighted. A lot of people find that the COP to start with a Vaillant can be quite high and optimistic, and then it kind of comes down. Some people have found it the opposite way, but it does seem to settle after a couple of weeks. Once you've got your curve where you want it to be and all of that stuff, then it seems to be fairly accurate. And I know some people will challenge that, but you can have a look at some of the energy stats stuff, and you can have a look at the Open Energy Monitoring Forum. And you can see how people compare, but even some in the worst case, they're only 10% optimistic or 10% pessimistic. So you're going to be in that ballpark anyway. And then there are some questions about how accurate Open Energy Monitoring Kit actually is when it comes to comparison with gas boiler. And anyway, this is another issue, and I don't want to fall down that rabbit hole because this is a big long video. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope you've hit the like button. Send us some comments. It's interesting to read them. I learn a lot from you guys, and as we can see from the comment section, there is a little community that forms around helping each other on this transition towards renewable heating in our homes. And in the case of my solar video, the renewable energy that's producing that electricity to power the heat pumps. It's a great technology, and it's a great thing to be sharing and pushing forward with. So thank you for watching. You'll see me next time.